Room status, I give up, I quit. The act of cleaning is a futile gesture against a human-generated form of entropy. The entropy invariably wins in the end. My attempts to make order out of chaos have been futile. I give up. This is a theme. This is some foreshadowing, I believe. The state of her room and the state of her mind are kind of in sync a lot of the time. Or not in sync necessarily, depending on her attitude. Moving in has been completed. Not that it was a very long process. We only have 2 rooms now, and they're not that big. I wish we had moved in with my parents instead. If only we had swallowed our pride sooner. But instead, my sister beat me to it. So now I'm stuck living with my in-laws in their garishly decorated home. I do not wish to mention it to my husband, because I appreciate the economic circumstances that necessitated our move and do not wish to seem ungrateful for the support they are providing by renting us space, but I do not like my in-laws at all. My mother and father-in-law are old enough to be my grandparents, which is fine. However, I find them to be not friendly. They're not rude. They simply do not speak to me, ever. My brother-in-law seems friendly and very spirited, but to me he never says anything and immediately excuses himself from any conversation I attempt to start. I believe they're afraid of me. I don't understand why, and I wish I knew what it was that I have done to inspire such feelings in them. I find it very hurtful to be surrounded by people but have them willfully ignore me for reasons unknown. I stay in the bedroom as much as possible as a result. We have a computer screen next to the bed anyway, so it's sufficient for me to work from. If I bury myself in work, I can ignore those feelings. It's really supposed to be surprising people are scared to talk to her. Thankfully, work continues at a good pace again. It took much longer than anticipated, but I was finally able to use my old professor's equipment at Mugunghwa University to perform tests on the Pale Bride's blood. The results are unsurprising, and the proof is unequivocal. Ambient radiation on the Mugunghwa truly is much higher than the standard baseline. The current levels are not normal, and with minimal massaging of the data, a linear direct correlation with birth rates and ambient radiation extrapolated from current levels in the Pale Bride's blood can be demonstrated. Ding! Wait, she confirmed that, so, that would have killed everyone in the end, no matter what? There's no doubt our society is being killed slowly by infertility caused by increased radiation levels. When my report is complete, I will certainly be able to present it, and I have no doubt it will be finished seriously. I merely have to get through this, finish all this work, and finally I will be able to get my life back on track. Sorry, I've got something on my mind now that I feel like if we had shown these to old Mute, just normal Mute, that she might have thought in her position was differently. That she wouldn't have been the person who caused all of this to happen, to be the one, but something that was completely out of her control was really the cause of all of this. But I don't know. It's not really my place to know. I kind of want to read that end, or at least second end. Okay. We met former Chief Counselor Smith at Royal, the same place we did 7 years ago, in the same private room as before. This time, though, Mute arrived exactly on schedule. You know, ladies, I don't envy you at all, he said. It's so nice to look at what's happened to the Mugunghwa Council and think, not my problem anymore. The last time I saw you, Miss Heo, you still had black hair. I'll sleep when I'm dead, I said. I don't have the time for it otherwise. How's your family? Mute asked politely. It must be nice to have as much time as you want to spend with them. Oh, please, like either of you care about my family, he scoffed. I still keep up with current events, you know. I know exactly why you're here. You screwed up, and your poster boy of mediocrity didn't turn out the way you planned, did he? He looked at me, expecting a response. I guess last time I was easily baited by him, not this time. I let Counselor Mute do the talking. She had far more confidence than I was able to muster anymore. Yep, we sure did, she said, smiling. No yelling, no denial, no insults, no sass. You must be desperate if you're willing to admit that right off, he said, actually taken back by her honesty. We created a monster, plain and simple, she said, stifling a look of annoyance. It was a bad call. Who could have known underneath all that shy uselessness was a secret totalitarian? He's out of control, I said, trying to restrain too much of my scorn for the man who had a part in murdering my own husband. Whoa! Damn! Well, we figured that out, didn't we? Shoot. It really is. What do you want from me? Is that what he was thinking when she can't live forever? What do you want from me? I have no political power anymore. These young men have taken over politics. There's no place for old men like me. You look young to me, she said. Then the conversation paused briefly as we ordered food, wine being poured for both Smith and I. Well, we can't all live forever. Guess it must be a lot worse to be an old woman in politics than an old man these days, he said. Honestly, though, I might seem like I've gotten softer, but I still hate your guts. Counselor Mute, you were the biggest pain in my ass for my entire career. I think you got what you had coming. Good. I'd have no use for you if you didn't, Mr. Smith. I am about to propose something absolutely crazy, okay? And the only way we'll ever be able to pull it off is if even someone who hates me is on board with it, she said. And I know what you care about at heart is the best interests of the ship. You're wrong. What I care about are the best interests of my grandchildren. Oh, don't be pedantic. They align and you know it. Like, do you think this is just an abstract point to me? I've got children in my family too, you know. Ensuring a safer future for the ship means ensuring a safer future for my family's little Seo-yeong. And your girls too, Mute said. In that moment, I admired her more than I ever had. I knew she cared, but I never heard her speak about my daughter in such affectionate terms before. I could tell she wasn't just saying that for Smith's sake, and it was an awfully sweet sentiment for her to express. I like how protective she is too. Fine, what's your protocol? What's your proposal? He asked. You've got until we finish eating to convince me. I'm going to be up front. What I'm proposing is nothing short of an armed coup d'etat. I want to depose Chief Counselor Ryu and his entire council of destructive yes-men before he manages to completely gut ship security for good. Mute said, pounding her fist into her palm. I'm willing to stake everything on this. You're serious, Smith said, actually taken aback. Okay, good. I've finally got your attention, she smirked. She explained the situation in detail. The culture of the new council, the slow manipulation over the course of the past 7 years, the conspiracy, the private army of electoral monitors, the engineering of his victory on the election by arresting the president, the murder of one good man, the one man good enough to stand up to Ryu's conspirator and plaything at the university. Ayone. And the one good man, okay, was Professor Kim. That makes sense. She was really fired up. It reminded me of the good old days, when our problems were so much simpler. When I was still young, she still had that beautiful golden hair, and we were too strong to be scared of anything. I saw that in her again. Listening to her speak like that is so impassioned, so cool. I just knew at her side, we could put things right again. Finally, she finished, and there was a long pause. Do you really think you can pull it off? He asked at last. I'll let my lieutenant field this one, she said. Miss Heo? I tried to muster up confidence in my voice, and then she had. Unambiguously, I said, I know my men and women very well. They are both well-trained and loyal. I've made discreet inquiries, and I've already put together a list of 300 officers that I'm prepared to trust with my life. Ever since word got out that Chief Counselor Ryu plans to slash our budget in half to bolster his own private army of electoral monitors, he has been an extremely unpopular man in security. So you've got the security department on your side. That's the arms, basically. This is dependent on us acting swiftly, though. Right now, we outnumber them nearly 7-1. That advantage is going to become narrower and narrower the more the Chief Counselor attempts to starve our department. As well, Ayone must be aware we're onto her. Given the sudden public reveal of her relationship with Ryu, I told him, but if we are to strike swiftly and catch them off guard at our strongest, I have no doubt that we'll be able to assume control within a day. Even if I'm convinced that such drastic measures are really necessary, do you really expect me to take the risk of supporting you, he asked. No, I don't want you to. It'll look bad, Mute said immediately. I want no part of the revolution to be traceable back to you. What I want are a set of faces I can trust to form the Mugunghwa High Council. You said you wanted me to be your new chief counselor, he said. Oh, you want me to be the new chief counselor? I want the past 7 years to have never happened, Mute said. I'll settle for putting the council back the way it should have been. I want you to be the old chief counselor. I want to have those argumentative idiots back on the council, like even Kim and O. I know you can do that for me. What if I refuse, he asked. Then nothing happens. I won't have Ryu replaced with someone I can't trust. That isn't a mistake I'm going to make twice. She said flatly, you refuse, then we walk away. A good man dies for nothing, and your grandchildren grow up in a totalitarian Neo-Confucian dystopia. It's your call. All this planning, all this confidence. And it's all gonna blow up. Yep. Yes, it is. He paused, pensive. You really think you'll be able to pull this off, Counselor Mute? He finally asked. With a single elegant gesture, she produced a cigarette and lit it, taking a drag and blowing it dramatically. It was the coolest. In that moment, I knew that she was the same old badass Mute I always believed in. Just watch me, Mr. Smith, she said, projecting the utmost confidence. By the end of dinner, we'd gotten him to pledge to leave retirement once we were successful. That's pretty cool. That's kind of awesome. Okay, 2 left. Everything will be alright. This is the end of all of the Seo-yi stuff. At long last, my final report has been completed. I had to get someone else to submit it for me, but finally my work is starting to pay off. I have an audience with the Counselor of Engineering to present the matter for his consideration. I was so happy to write the recommendations section. However, thinking about the future and how I could do work that was actually recognized as valuable, help safeguard the ship's future, makes me feel as I have purpose once more. It is a feeling I've forgotten over these past few years, but I would like to remember it again. My husband does not share my same optimism. Things have been strained with us as late. We've never been able to communicate under the best of circumstances, but even more now. I feel as though there's a wedge between us. When I told him about having a chance to prove myself, and how I was looking forward to the future, he just seemed upset. I wanted to be proud of me for making it this far. Despite all the difficulties, I wanted him to be as supportive of me as he was from the start. I wanted to feel like I'm not doing this alone, I pleaded with him as we got ready for bed. What are you going to do if they ignore you after all that? What if they don't go through with that, with what you want? What then? He asked me. He seemed disappointed. Have you ever considered that possibility? It's unlikely. The data is irrefutable and easy to understand. Radiation is unquestionably the cause of decreased fertility on the Mugunhwa, I told him. I have confidence that no reasonable person could disregard my report. Oh dear. Oh, it's just as important for a wife to be supported too. Fine, I'm sure it is. I just trailed off. I don't care. I'm going to bed now. He turned his back on me. Wait, I said, hurrying over to sit in front of him. What if I did make plans for the extremely unlikely event things did not work out? Would that make you happy? Forget it, he said, annoyed. I mean it, I said. I don't want to be the cause of you being upset. I want things to be amicable between us again. I'm willing to make contingencies for the things that I do not believe will occur if it is something that will make you happy. I don't know what the hell that means. You're doing that thing where you talk over my head and I hate that. He scowled. I'm sorry, I said. If you want me to consider that things might not work out, I will consider it. Let's consider it. I don't think it'll happen, but there's no harm in considering it. What's the point? I'm sure you'll find some smart talking way around it in the end. Anyway, so you can just go back to your self-obsessed science project shit in the end. You always do. Please don't say that, I said, my voice quavering. You're my husband. I love you more than anything. Please don't stop taking me seriously, too. He looked away, and there was a long pause. I felt like crying. When just minutes before I was so happy. Eventually he made eye contact with me. He seemed to be confused. Sorry, I said in a sheepish manner. Do you really mean that? You love me? Yes, of course, I stated. You've never said that to me before, he said. I was skeptical. Are you sure? I am absolutely positive, he told me. I was sure he was wrong, but as he just apologized to me, I saw no reason to worsen things by arguing. I don't know. I told him to say I love you like 3 or 4 articles ago, so I don't know if they ever said it to each other. Not that I think that that's something that needs to be super important, but for them it is right now. And that's enough for me. I'm absolutely positive, he told me. I was sure he was wrong, but he had just apologized to me. I saw no reason to worsen things by arguing. Well, I do, I said. I love you very much. Come here, you, he said, grabbing me, pulling me onto his lap. Just like the old days. He hugged me, and I was unable to stop myself from crying at that moment. What's wrong, he asked. I'm happy, I told him. Oh. Let's make fallback plans, I said. In case I'm unable to convince them, what would you like? He said he was quiet for a moment. I want to have kids. Not just because it would help with the money. I just want to have kids. I want to have a girl, an adorable little girl who will be smart and pretty and dedicated just like her mother. After that, maybe we can have a couple of boys. She'll have to learn to keep them in line, but I can teach her that. You can teach her science. All right, I said. You promise? He asked after all this is done. If your presentation doesn't lead to a job, promise me you'll settle down and we'll try to have kids? I can make no promises with regards to gender, but I promise if my presentation is unsuccessful, I'll give up and we will try to have kids, I said. It seemed to comfort him a great deal. I felt guilty and hoped that he did not have his hopes up. It's unlikely that the report will be ignored. Wink! So I will not be following through on that promise. In the future, maybe we will anyway, but it was a promise that would not lead to anything because I'm certain that I will be very busy with work in the future. I hope it does not disappoint him. I am happy now, though. I am optimistic for the future. I have an audience that will lead to something being done about our society's greatest problem, and with the irrefutable and extensive proof I've compiled, I will be taken seriously again. In just a matter of days, I will be on track again. I'm also happy because after I promised that, he took me by the chin, smiled, and said to me, "I'm going to hold you to that. I'm also going to kiss you now." Except these dates. This date's right before Queen Aone destroyed everything. Yeah, because you want to know what's a big threat to everything Aone is putting together? All of this. I nodded. I liked that. I told him. When he did, I had never felt such relief in my life. I had my husband caring about me again. I had a future. I had a value and a purpose, and finally, it will not just be me repeating these things to myself. I have persevered for so long, and soon it will pay off in just a matter of days. I also enjoyed the kiss. Aside from its symbolic meaning, it simply felt very nice. I could have melted in his arms right there. I'm certain of it. Everything will be alright. I'm just glad I can end with all of So-ye's arc, even though it doesn't end all right. At least this ending and this time, it's alright.